Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today, really interesting little review for you guys, kind of a comparison as well. I was going to make this kind of a bracelet update for the Mako, but you know what? I think enough people, I mean like myself anyway, have questions about this clasp. It looks great. It looks awfully close to the Christopher Ward clasp, so I brought in the C60 Trident Mark III with the same style of excellent clasp. And I honestly haven't even gotten measurements on them yet, but I'm going to put it to the test, see really how close these things are, because honestly, if they are coming out of the same factory, I don't think they would spend any extra money tooling it differently to where they would be off by a couple of millimeters. I assume they would carry over whatever they could, and then it would just be some finishing changes that go on kind of after the fact where you don't need any tooling adjustments. But looking at these right now, I gotta say, guys, they are pretty similar, and that is not a bad thing. Both watches are great. One is $499 and the other is $960 something, right? Although there are a lot of deals you can get for Christopher Ward. Everybody knows their sites. They typically offer various discounts throughout the year, whether it's a standing 15% pretty regularly, or then you can get the 20 and 30% deals that kind of happen more at an annual or seasonal rate. So the nice thing is I can compare these because something that's I see popping up in my comment section more and more. Oh, no transparency. Do you just get these? No. Okay, I can compare these any way that I want because I just bought this bracelet. I already had the Mako 3, and I bought this blue Trident C60 Mark II. So as much as I enjoy Christopher Ward and Zelos, really I don't have to worry about making either of them upset because I don't owe them anything. So anyways, guys, sorry, that just popped into my head because it gets a little old having to explain to everybody that I'm not some ginormous channel where brands are just, aching to give me free stuff and try to pay me off, and like a micro brand has all this money to throw at a YouTube channel with less than 20,000 subscribers. But now that I'm off that rant, guys, let's get these pieces in hand. All right, guys, now from here, very similar. Very similar, eerily similar. I'd say even it looks like that width that's in the middle, quite similar. Doesn't necessarily mean they're out of the same factory because, one copied the other. Then, and when I say one, I mean Zelos if they ended up, but they still offer great value for money. Completely different aesthetic, completely different bracelets, guys. I mean, and it's not even a one-to-one. It's not like this is just automatically kind of cheaper in any way. If anything, it has more complex finishing because of that the beveling done on the edges, versus here it's pretty straightforward, just brushed, although nicely brushed. And then here you have pin and collar system versus here you have screw and links. I'm more of a pin and collar guy myself, but I gotta say screw and links are very easy to set as well. The nice thing about pin and collars, you can set it and forget it, where pin and collars you do have to kind of measure twice and cut once. A little bit harder to get set, but after you do, you pretty much leave it alone and never go back to it and worry about it again. But Zelos recently released a whole new round of their Mako V3s. This is not from that batch. This is one that I had previously from the original Zelos V3 launch. This is I believe this was called the Midnight Blue. Yeah, the Midnight Blue dial, and I love it, guys. Look at that beautiful wave pattern. Very, very nice. Check the full review in the channel history, but they did with that new run also offer you to buy the bracelets separately. Of course, by the time you're watching this, the bracelets are all sold out because these shipped quite a bit later, and I bought this, so no early reveal from that standpoint, but I really dig these, and I was happy to see because I saw a wider version that they used on the titanium swordfish that I reviewed, and in this case though, if this was actually like the exact dimensions, I mean, at least on paper, it kind of felt like very similar dimensions actually to the Christopher Ward. So not just the same design, but a very similar look there as well. Let's line those up. Look at that. That even lines up. Let's look at the buttons. Buttons look kind of different. I mean, similar, but I think the size is actually a little bit different. So let's do this. Take this out. Okay, I'm sure this dimension will probably be about the same. 19.7. Oh, this is closer to actually 20 mils. I mean, that 19.7 is basically 20. Let me measure it from this side. Probably be the same there. 19.8. So this is just a hair thinner, it looks like. 19.7. So that's making me feel like these are not from the same factory. Or if they are, they made an effort, which I don't see as being profitable, to make them slightly different. 38.9. And they can make them slightly different just by the finishing. 38.9. Ooh, okay. Let's see this right here, though. Let's look at this button. That's where it looked slightly. I think this one looked a little bit fatter. 6.6. Okay. 6.6. Oh, investigative journalism at its best. 2.2. Okay, moment of truth, guys. It doesn't look like 2.2, but that could just be the finish. 2. What? Oh, drama. 2.2. Weird. Okay, let's look here. That's pretty identical. Even the notching, you'll see where the hinge is identical. Okay, here of course you have the signed Christopher Ward. Let's measure this space, this gap from here to here. Okay, about 3 point. There's 3 even. Let's see this guy here. Can we get 3 even on here? Ooh, 3 even. Okay, so maybe the length that actually could be affected by just the finishing, but every other dimension so far is pretty much the same. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? Same factory? Could be. Could be. Or it could just be a really nice copy, a nice rendition. Let's look at the internal beveling and chamfering here. Okay, nicely rounded, as you can see. Let's look here. Okay, also nicely rounded. Let me see, actually, that looks like it almost has like a double step. So there's one angle and then a secondary and then the flat. Was that the case over here? No, slightly different. You can see. So again, that makes me pause and think, hey, they could just be, you know, they could be related in just that they look alike, but maybe just come out a completely different, because you can see there's an extra angle here. If you look at the way the light hits on there, you see that 1, 2, 1, 2. So you get the 2-step. Here it's just more of a rounded surface. So for me, I think I'm leaning more towards a really excellent copy of this clasp. Of course, they work exactly the same, guys. You pull this little lever here, pull it out, push it in. Once it's in, you can't pull it out, but you can also loosen it and then just click it in like so. Same here, pull. Feels probably a little bit smoother, I guess, on the C Ward. Generally the finishing is a little bit smoother, but hey, it costs about twice the price, and it's Swiss made, and it's really marketed as something I think well above what Zelos try to do. What Zelos do is just offer you so much bang per buck. You're just happy to have a lot of these features, right? Because it's just such an insanely well done value proposition. Here you're doing a little bit of shopping around. You're comparing this definitely a little bit more upstream, up market, but they do have some very similar attributes. Of course, generally, if you were comparing something like this, I think what you'll find also just kind of across when you think about $500 micro brand watches is, although you do have these beautiful finishes and nice details, there are just some spots where like this is a little bit sharp, a little rough there in the transition, a little bit sharp and a little bit rough as you run your fingers along this area as well, versus here you're pretty much not getting any rough or sharp edges. Everything is quite broken and quite nice. Let's see how it feels when we click this thing closed. Okay. Oh, this one felt a little bit more audible. I don't know. That's pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, insiders, all the watch idiot savants out there, let me know. I have been on the forums because I got kicked off for the forums because they said I was a business because I guess my channel was doing too well. So when I would post reviews on there, they thought that I was, I don't know what they thought I was doing. I was doing what I had done since I had an account with Watch You Seek, which was just share my reviews with people. And that's kind of the whole point of what I do, is to kind of share my thoughts and insights, because I know not everybody can put two of these next to each other. And might people shop these two against each other? I think there's a pretty good chance. They're very different watches, but if you're looking for I guess the same coin but maybe a different side of each coin, these are two options that I think look pretty darn good and compare pretty well to each other, although there is a price discrepancy. But I think obviously there's a bit more of a prestige factor with Christopher Ward. They're very successful. I mean, geez, they have actual commercials in the UK that go on TV. Zelos, they're just so successful that their stuff just sells out. I mean, typically the only way you can even see these for review is because I'm in contact with Echelon from Zelos, and he's kind enough to send these out to me before their release. So I don't have to wait in line, and then possibly it ends up getting sold out. So very nice from that standpoint. And I mean, I have quite a few Zelos watches, and for me, this is kind of one of their pinnacle watches. I wouldn't say it's the ultimate Zelos, but it's my favorite Zelos. I think probably the more ultimate Zelos would be that titanium swordfish I reviewed a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago by now. That thing was awesome and screamed Zelos. This one is a little bit more, I think, for the mainstream. This is a little bit more of a crowd pleaser at the smaller 40 millimeter size, and just some of these details that they've done definitely are paying some fan service to what the WIS community look for, ask for, versus feeling like a pure and utter Zelos affair, like some of the Zelos's more chunky watches. This is more, hey, they listen to the crowd and they put together something that would be a crowd pleaser, and basically even non-Zelos fans can like this watch and think that it's killer, versus they know their core following is going to pretty much love anything within that popular aesthetic. And yeah, when you think about something that kind of covers a lot of bases, you got to talk about the Christopher Ward C60 Trident. I mean, this thing is a classic, a modern classic, if you will, forum classic, but still a classic nonetheless, right? I don't think that anybody's going to go grabbing your wrist when you're out at lunch to go, take a closer look at this. But at the same time, anybody who can appreciate a quality watch will most likely be able to recognize that this thing is sweet. Look at the bevels. Look at the undercut. I mean, everything that I said great about this watch still carries on. Their prices are increasing, but they're also increasing the technology, the fit, the finish. They're constantly improving. So I really can't get mad from that standpoint. But really was under the microscope today was this Zelos, this Mako V3, right? It's from the original batch. It's not the newest batch, so it's not a color combination you can have readily available. But I did want to just, man, I just had to show this to the world because, not just for the comparison's sake, but because this is a really complete package for $499. Of course, not in this color scheme, but guys, if you already had one, the nice thing is they do things like they'll release the bracelet separately. Not, mainstream brands don't really do that too often, right? And it's one of the nice things about these smaller independent micro brands is that they kind of think about you guys as their long-term customers, right? They're not just trying to get you to buy more and buy new. They want you to be able to upgrade as well and give you some options. And it's not the cheapest thing to offer just a bracelet, right? It's much easier to have them produced as sets. So the fact that they go out of their way to really crowd please is very, very commendable. And I have to say, although this is a very similar clasp to things we've seen, it's a damn good one. And honestly, they're not the first micro brand to offer a clasp that looks like something we've seen before, but happens to be a really good clasp. So nobody's gonna get mad, right? So yeah, I'm digging this thing. You know what? We'll go ahead, kind of end the comparison and move into some wrist shots, low light transition. We'll get it all out of the way and make this kind of a complete feel. All right, guys, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, this Mako V3 wears really, really well. It's 40 millimeters. It's 14 millimeters in height, but that's total because this does have this really nice little, domed, protruding crystal there, a little top hat action, and it's gorgeous. And it's really, without the crystal, it's only 11.5 millimeters thick. It has a 46 millimeter lug to lug, which is really quite compact. The crystal itself is 2.5 millimeters thick. It has, of course, that double dome kind of boxed edge style. 120 clicks, unidirectional rotating bezel. Ooh, it's great action, even in gloves. And look, you can see there's some day loom going on. Even under the hot studio lights, that thing wants to light up because this is quite a loom beast. Ooh, did I overclick it? Nah, I hit the spot. Nice. And that dial, of course, the wave pattern, more refined, very beautiful. Definitely gives you some of those Seiko vibes with just the really fine details and the play of color. And then, of course, you're getting it in a package with a movement that has the higher beat rate of just the 4 hertz sweep. So you're getting 8 ticks per second versus your typical Seiko powered 3 hertz, which is going to be 6 ticks per second. And even when you think about some of the higher end stuff, Powermatic movements or even Omegas, they slow those down as well to extend out the power reserve. So it's nice to still get that nice smooth sweep available out there and without any compromises. So digging that, man. Look at those bevels. Works really great on wrist, and of course I get to really dial it in because of this system, which is wonderful. So let's actually get into loom shot, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, guys, now I know I said I was going to be done with the comparison, but come on, loom, let's do it. We haven't seen these two next to each other. Bam. All right, here we go. Zelos Killer Loom. Christopher Ward holding its own. It's definitely still really well applied, very, very sharp, but definitely doesn't have quite that initial brightness. So I did want to kind of share that with you, and also so you guys could see that they are even comparable in terms of the fact that they have a lot of loom. So when you're getting that low light underwater visibility, you're still going to have it on either side. But one other thing I like to do is get some low light transition in, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of the times you might be in and out of a building, maybe walking underneath an overhang or a shady tree, or just spending some time in your favorite vehicle. So I get to do these transitions to give you an idea of how these colors are going to render. What do the blues look like? How much purple is in there? How much green hints do you get off of these? You know, what is that? How does the polishing glossy finish contrast in terms against something where it's brushed in the way that it holds the light differently at different angles. Also, I'll get down and do some, you know, some really high contrast lighting here, which typically will expose, you know, some of the ugly warts that might get washed away in the hot studio lights. But I gotta say, as you look at the light gliding over the brushing on these links, still very, very uniform, guys. I mean, I gotta say, the brushing almost looks slightly finer on the Zelos. What? Not to say that the brushing is bad on the C Ward, but I think it's just, is that just me? Let me know in the comments below. Look at the way the light, how uniform it is as it glides over these links, because I feel like it's a little bit higher definition. It holds the light a little bit nicer, like a little bit of a finer finish on the Zelos. Surprised to see that. And of course, as you look at the blue dials in combination with those beautiful bezel inserts, they also hold the light differently. You're seeing a lot of different shades on the Zelos versus a much more uniform look depending on the angle for the Christopher Ward. All right, guys, closing thoughts on the wrist. Very classic proportions, you know, probably slimmer wearing with a more refined layout than you kind of remember from this line. And the nice thing is, they, with the update to the V3, it's funny, V3 versus a Mark III, V3 Mako versus the Mark III Trident, they've all gone underneath these refinements that kind of help make the watches stand out more on their own, and, you know, feel a little bit less crowded, a little bit less busy, into something that I think fits more and more use cases and will look great on more and more wrists. You can't really go wrong with either of these, although this really started out as a Zelos you know, Clasp update. I'm glad I did bring in the Christopher Ward, just because there's a connection there, and it's not just through the Clasp design. I think they're kind of looking at the same value proposition, but just from a different lens, right? One being, hey, let's see what we can squish into a $500 watch. And then Christopher Ward looking at probably more, hey, what can we switch into $1,000 watch, below $1,000, Swiss made, British design, you know, all the goodies that come with that, right? And I think they're both doing really outstanding jobs representing each side of that coin, but ultimately it's a value proposition that all of us watch fans can enjoy, because let's face it, guys, not everybody is willing to pay as much for a Seiko as Seiko is willing to charge. You know, that's another story altogether, and I hear about it all the time. Anytime I review anything Seiko, people just have to chime in. It's way too expensive, this, that, and the other. Hey, people are buying them, though. People are buying them, and they're buying them so much that dealers are raising the prices above MSRP. So if you think Seikos are still underpriced, you know, or I should say overvalued, you're wrong. They might not be undervalued anymore, but they're definitely not overvalued just yet, because people are still paying more than the asking price. So there's a high demand for that. So with that, it opens the gates for watches like this, like Christopher Ward or Zelos, to come through, put something out there that feels new, fresh, and exciting. You know, there's no re-releases here. There's no reissues. Fairly few limited editions for those that get a little batty when it comes to mainstream brands releasing limited editions. You're not going to get any of that, or not much of it anyway, and from these types of smaller brands. But I think these two do offer a really nice, fun value proposition. Sorry this review was a little bit out there, but you know what? It's on the wrist from off the cuff, guys. Come on, it's off the cuff. Don't get mad out of the O's, ohms, and uhs, because I'm just not going to spend the time to recut it. Good news for you all, if you are a subscriber and you're watching this video. Once I hit that 20K, which should be really any week now, I will also be adding some other formats to my reviews. There'll be still the long cut of on the wrist from off the cuff, but hey, I'll have some other stuff for you too that might be a little bit more palatable, you know, within that 5 to 7 minute review time frame. And you know, I don't know what we'll call it. Maybe we'll call it on time reviews, right? Just because I'll be on time and I won't be off the cuff. So with that said, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.